You're listening to John the Recruiter Podcast, JTR, where we discuss everything recruiting. If you're looking to get into recruiting or to become a re-energized recruiter, stay tuned and be prepared to be motivated. Welcome to John the Recruiter Podcast, Episode 3, Building Your Plan. No matter if you work in an office, home, or hybrid, or what fields you recruit for, you need a plan. Why is building a plan important? Well, everything you do is time, so you have to plan it wisely. What should you consider when you build a plan? Well, what jobs are you looking to fill? What meetings do you have to attend? What type of candidates are you searching for? Where and how do you find them? When do you need to find them by? And when do interviews start? And you got to start with your weekly plan. Most jobs require 40 to 45 hours per week. I always want to say you start with all your known information first, and you fill that out on your weekly plan, whether you're using like an Outlook calendar or you write it down. So you're going to add on there your meetings, any PTO, if you have a lunch break, any scheduled interviews or screenings that you already have, any events that you have plans like career fairs, anything like that, and then see what's left. You need to add prospecting. If you don't have any candidates at all, and if you have candidates, you need to prospect to keep filling the funnel anyway. I always train to have at least 20 to 25 hours of scheduled prospecting on your plan going into the week. And as you get into that week, if you need more, you can add to it. You spread this prospecting out through the week to get interviews or screenings. You leave open time. Why? Well, that way, during the week, during your prospecting, if you find candidates to screen or interview, you add them in to your plan. When it comes to screening or interviews, I always front loaded when I plan for them, and here's why. I wanted to goal myself for each week on an amount of screening and interviews to be successful. For example, if I goaled myself with 10 screenings in my 5-day work week, here's how I would front load it. So on a normal, typical week, Monday to Friday, I would just divide the 10 by 5. So if you did that, that's 2 per day, right? But if I just did 2 per day, I'm setting myself up for failure. So what I would do is I would front load. So take, for instance, on Monday, I would goal myself with 4, and then on Tuesday, 3, Wednesday, 2, Thursday, 1, and on Friday, 0. And that way I would try to get all my activity on Monday and set myself up for success. And that way, towards the end of the week, I would have less and try to get all my interview screenings done earlier in the week. And that way, if I had shortfalls, I had time to make them up later in the week. We'll talk more about this later in future podcasts. But now I just want to give you a heads up on it. And this all depends on your prospecting and already planned screening and interviews you have. If you already have planned screening and interviews, go ahead and count them. So if you go into the week and you're like, I already have 3 or 4 planned, well, take that off whatever you goal yourself. So for instance, if I goaled myself with 10 and I already had 3 planned, then I need to get 7 more. And I plan that activity on there, and I still front load to try to get them. And if I can get more, I get more. That's what being great's about. Now let's talk about the actual prospecting. How are you going to get those screening interviews to meet your activity to be successful? I've always used 4 modes to produce candidates: events, referrals, personally developed contacts, and mining. Let's start with events. To me, events are any planned recruiting or awareness evolutions that can produce candidates. Here's some examples. Career fairs, school visits, community events, social events, things like that. Referrals, using employees, candidates, or anyone you know to produce candidates for you. For example, I always ask, do you know anyone I should be talking to? So anybody I talk to, I'd ask that question. And if they gave me a referral, great. And as I worked with candidates or anybody else, I would ask that question. Your goal is to make referrals your best mode, and this will make your recruiting life easy. Personally developed contacts, or PDC. This is using your recruiting skills to meet candidates in their area or on your own. And then mining, sourcing candidates using specific searches on platforms intended for recruiting. Now that you know what prospecting modes are, let's add it to your plan. With all your known meetings, PTO, prospecting, interviews, screenings, your week is ready to go. You will have blank time on your plan once you add all this and the 20 to 25 hours of prospecting. You can add more interviews and screenings as you get them, or if you don't get them, then add more prospecting time. Because if you don't add and you have blank time, add prospecting to try to get more. Don't forget to look ahead and front load. When you build your weekly plan, you want to try to get it done as far as Wednesday or Thursday for the week following. And then front load ahead to say, okay, what am I going into the next week? And maybe 2 weeks out or maybe 3 weeks out. And then get that. If I'm a recruiting leader, I would always have my recruiters turn their plan into me the Thursday before they leave work so I could review it for Friday and talk to them if I had any suggestions or changes that I want them to make. So once you get that plan done and you have your weekly plan done and you're starting to work on further out weeks, monthly, quarterly, then plan prospecting for best success. When you get candidates and want to schedule screening or interviews, push them to empty spots in your plan. That's what you build a plan for, and you have those empty spots on there. So say if you build your plan out and Monday's full because you have a screening scheduled, you have all your prospecting built out, but you have some time Tuesday at like 10 o'clock and Tuesday at 4 o'clock. And you meet a candidate in your prospecting on Monday, and that candidate says, okay, I want to do a screening. If you say to that candidate, when are you available? And you let them tell you and dictate when they're going to, do the screening, that's going to ruin your plan. But if you change it around and say, hey, I have time available on Tuesday at 10 o'clock or at 3 o'clock, or on Wednesday at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, then that gives that candidate options. And then plus it goes with your plan. And that's really the best way to do that. And if that doesn't meet the candidate's needs, then give them some more times that's open in your plan. If you keep giving them options that's open in your plan, you guys can come to an agreement. And if when you build your plan, you're building it from your normal 40 to 45 hours a week. And that's what we talked about in earlier podcasts, that sometimes you have to go above and beyond. Maybe you do it after working hours. But you can do it to meet your plan. And if you do it that way, you'll keep your prospecting that you have scheduled, and it'll make you very successful. But if you keep doing it to where you let the candidates dictate when you're going to do that, your schedule will get all messed up, and then you'll never accomplish your prospecting that you had planned. Start tracking where and what prospecting mode that you're getting your candidates from. This is going to help you with your strengths and weaknesses. And then when you're in a bind, you're going to know where your go-to prospecting mode is. So that way, if someone comes to you, one of your hiring managers comes and says, hey, I need this really bad and I need it fast, you're going to know what your strength is in your prospecting mode, and you're going to know where you're going to go to first. If you're not good at PDC, or you don't have a good referral market set up, you're not going to go that way first. But if you're good at mining, you're going to know that's where I'm going to start for that job to find that candidate. And that's going to set you up for success right away. Once you track this for a period of time, then you can see what works best for you, and then also what you need to work on, because you can make each one of those a strength. Because as you track the numbers, you can see, okay, I need to work on this to get better at it. What am I doing that I can get myself better at it? And the ones that I'm doing good, why am I doing good? You can also go as far as what works best at certain times and days. Maybe every Monday you're doing PDC at something and it's never successful. Then change it up. Don't do it. Maybe you should be doing mining on that Monday. Every Monday when I would come in, I would start on my mining and go on to like LinkedIn, Facebook, Indeed, and start with that early morning. And that seemed to work for me, and I got better results. Try things like that just to see how it works and see what your results are from it. Because if I did LinkedIn and stuff Friday afternoon, that wasn't really the best of time to communicate with people. Always look at what you do and go back and look. So if I get a candidate that when I was prospecting for mining on Monday and I end up getting a candidate and I screen them and get them hired, then I go back and I track that. And I say, I got a hire from my mining that I did on Monday. Then I track that. And then 3 months from now, I say, hey, for my mining, I've gotten 4 hires. What am I doing? And I know, and I can track to see what I'm doing to make myself successful. That's going to help me in a long run, because then I can keep doing that to keep getting people into interviews, keep getting hires. And that's going to keep me going. And then while I'm doing that, I can keep planning that type of mining either at that same day or same time, or at it in different areas to even have more success. And then keep working on the other modes to keep getting successful in them. So remember, if you want to be great, you have to review your efforts and see where you are so you can improve. And you only become great by your own relentlessness to be the best. So stay motivated. Thanks for listening to the JTR podcast. Talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to the JTR podcast. I retired in 2018 from the United States Navy as a Master Chief, and most recently was a Director of Recruiting for a company with over 80,000 employees. With over 25 years of experience in recruiting and recruiting leadership in some of the most challenging fields and markets. Stay tuned for more tips to be relentless. Stay motivated.